Hello, I'm called Amina'S. I'm going to record a video about the questions that are most likely asked in mock interviews and their responses. The first question says, tell me about yourself. I'm a student called Amina'S. I'm a student at Southern New Hampshire University. I previously studied in Sunrise High School in my secondary, and where I studied math, computer science, and economics. The second question says, tell me about your past experience. About my past experience, when I finished high school, I got an opportunity of being a secretary of Anglican Church of Rwanda in Kibuye Parish. I was in charge of preparing meeting minutes and the agenda of the meetings. I was in charge of preparing the monthly reports of the church and preparing the documents of the church. Uh, I had when I was in high school, I also had an experience of being a vice president of anti-AIDS club. In this club, when we used to organize events, which was all about teaching about AIDS, and it was organizing. It was in charge of organizing theaters that would teach students about AIDS and how they can prevent themselves against it. So that was my experiences when I was secretary and the time when I was a vice president of anti-AIDS club in high school. Another question that is most likely to asked in mock interviews is says that describe a time when you worked well on a team. The time I remember when I worked well in a team is the time when I was a vice president of Anti-AIDS Club. As the committee of Anti-AIDS Club, we had divided tasks to do in the event that we were preparing, and we had many tasks like organizing the praise and finding the place, inviting people, and making sure the protocols and other services that other people would need in the event. So I personally I had a task of organizing and finding the place where the event would take place, and at that time I was able to work well in a team because I was able to finish the task that I was given, I personally, of organizing the place and finding it. And after finishing my task, I was also eager to help my colleagues about their task. Like I helped my member who was in charge of inviting and welcoming people in the event. So I think that is the time I mostly worked. That is the time I worked well in a team, and that time I remember the what we did. It became colorful because the event was productive, and we were able to teach more people about AIDS, and they were able to know and grab the ideas from the event. Another question that is mostly asked in the mock interview is say, tell me about the time when you had too many things to do and had to prioritize your tasks. Um, when I was when I was the secretary of Anglican Church of Rwanda in Kibuye Parish. I was supposed to write a monthly report, and one day I was supposed to write that monthly report. I was supposed to attend the meeting. I had many tasks to do, and I was also supposed to make a report of the people who had the appointments with the pastor, and there were many things that I had to do, and they had all the due dates. So as for me to manage to accomplish those tasks, I made the prioritization, and I first did the tasks which were mostly needed, and ended up with the tasks that were not mostly needed, and I was successful because in the end all the tasks were done, and they were all done well and on time. uh, Another question says that tell me about the time when you had to go and beyond the call of duty. How did you handle this? How did you handle the situation? Uh, when I was the secretary of the church, uh, the accountant got a problem. One day, accountant got a problem, and she didn't come to work in a period for a week. So they asked me to help them and do the task that accountant was in charge of doing during that week. It was actually difficulty for me because there is no way I had done that, but I consulted the books and the records she had made, and I was able to know how to use those books. I used the entrepreneurship skills which I studied in my high school, and I was able to know and to organize the data that they was supposed to be organized in that week, and all things were done well, and I was able to know the money that entered in the week, what the one that went out from the church in the week. I was able to organize all data that was done financially in the week, and I was successful because all data was well organized and nothing else was bad. Uh, Another question says, tell me about the time when you worked effectively under pressure. Still, when I was a secretary, there is a time when I was supposed to handle the monthly report at the beginning of the next month. So I was given the due date of the next month. Later on, they came and told me that you have to submit the report on the before the end of today. I was somehow pressured because the due date had changed. I had to do that report in the period of like 10 hours, and I was like pressured. I did it very quickly so that I can be able to submit it on the day. And that time I managed to do it, and I was successful because at the end of the day I had submitted the report. uh, Another question that is asked is says that give me an example of a time when you showed initiative. The time I remember when I showed initiative is the time when I was in high school, and uh, that time when I was a vice president in anti-AIDS club. In that time, there is a person who was we had an event, and there is a person who was in charge of inviting people and making sure that the people come in the event. So for me, I personally, I was in charge of organizing the place and uh, organizing the place where the event would happen from. So I showed initiative by helping my colleague about in the on the task of inviting people, because I personally I was supposed to organize the place, and then my task was all done. So I didn't finish from that. After organizing the place where the event would happen from, I went on and helped my colleague about the inviting people so that the event can be colorful. And that is the time when I remember I showed initiative, because I was working hard so that the event can be successful. And in the end, the event was successful because we all worked hard so that the event can be successful and helped each other, because we knew what we want. We wanted to be successful, and that's what we got in the end of the event. The last question says that, is there anything else you would like us to know about you? Well, um, uh, something else I want you to know about me is that I'm a hardworking girl, I'm courageous, and I don't give up. When I'm given a task, even though I can fail, I keep trying and trying and trying. I don't give up on my task. Another thing I want you to know about me is that um, always when like uh, the task is very hard or difficult for me, I don't sit and leave. I just ask and make research so that I can be able to accomplish that task. Also a person that works on time, and I'm hardworking girl. Thank you so much.